Greetings, my name is John Savers. I'm your host for Top Hat and Buttered Popcorn, and welcome. We're going to consider a movie tonight called Dumb and Dumber. The movie is a Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels vehicle. It was directed by Peter Farrelly, and it is an episodic story in which two very, very dumb individuals traipse from the East Coast to Aspen, Colorado. The Jim Carrey character, I thought, appeared very mannered, and he has too much facial expression, and I give Jeff Daniels the superior performance, comedic performance. The tale is kind of a silly one, of course. You have basically a storyline of love at first sight, the love interest losing an item of property, the attempt to return the property, and thereby to gain the love of the woman who had, in this case, been the person who lost the property. The movie is also a very negative movie in terms of its picturing of people. Very few come out well, and that, in that sense, it too is a little bit on the misanthropic side. We will say that the director, Peter Farrelly, I think gave his initial debut with this film, and did a relatively good job moving things along. The problem basically is that although this movie had some funny parts to it, it is so revolting, crude, vulgar, that when it's all said and done, you have to wonder at the writers of this thing. I will say Jim Carrey appears to owe quite a lot to Jerry Lewis. Even his hair seems to be in the Jerry Lewis mold, and he has the same kind of doofus, awkward gait that sometimes was employed by Jerry Lewis. The story brims with vulgarity and crudeness, which is pitched as humor, and it involves things such as toilet matters and vomit and snot and urine and excessive nasal hair and cruelty, sexual perversion, etc. Even water sports and exhibitionism and pederasty even. The people that you encounter are stupid, or corrupt, or criminal, or incompetent, or perverted, or fools, or knaves, or sluts, or something of this kind. Well, the story opens up with a long limousine going past a group of people at a street corner in New York. The limousine returns, kind of stops and comes back, and the head of Jim Carrey comes out, and we see that he is oogling a young woman there, and it's not clear whether or not the young woman is a tourist or a street woman. But at any rate, when he begins oogling her, she relates that she is from Austria. And this sends Carrey into a shtick in regard to shrimp on the Barbie and all that kind of thing. In other words, he thought she was an Aussie. this kind of thing is characteristic of the humor to be found. When he brings his head back in, if there was any doubt about his being an idiot, it's lost. If anyone could get their head caught in the door, it would be Jerry Lewis or this guy. Now, in a window. And we also learned that he's not a rich idiot, but he's basically a limo driver. And we follow him as he goes off to make his pickup, which is of a very pretty woman named Mary Swanson. He picks her up, and it's like love at first sight, heart pounding. And as he drives, he tries to make a little conversation and imagining in the way that there is a relationship growing here. Kind of reminds one of the song by the Doobie Brothers about the fool. Anyway, he does get her to the airport and even manages to cop a hug from her. And she goes off with her luggage and attaché case, and he kind of patrols outside in his limousine in a parallel manner. And the woman, Mary Swanson, suddenly stops and drops the attaché case on the floor, sets it on the floor, and then continues walking. And Jim Carrey, his character is named Lloyd. Lloyd immediately sees that she has left this luggage and tries to hit the brakes, but rams into somebody in front of him, setting off an airbag and causing an awkward situation. But he manages to get out, and he goes and fetches the attaché case and takes it desperately toward the woman who is en route to a plane for Aspen. Now, it just so happens that her husband has been kidnapped, and she is leaving an attaché case full of cash for kidnappers. And so Lloyd has managed to mess things up. He takes the attaché case home, and he is pursued by a big, thick, break-leg thug and a female shootist. As he is arriving home, his roommate Harry is also coming in. Harry has had a parallel kind of adventure in that he has a van that has been made to appear that of a dog, and he is in the grooming business, and believes this dovetails very well with his business. He's carrying dog passengers. He has them groomed and cleaned and so forth, and he decides to stop at a fast food place to treat them to some sandwiches. And he passes out the sandwiches and gives each dog mustard, mayonnaise, and whatever. And soon he makes it to the destination, and we see a woman kind of frantic outside of a pet grooming type place, and she says, you know, you're 45 minutes late and so forth. Not to worry, says the Daniels character Harry. He says, I've cleaned these dogs, they're clipped, and he opens up the rear, and we see all the dogs are just smeared with mustard and tomato ketchup. Well, needless to say, he is fired, and so when he joins Lloyd back at their apartment complex, they're both kind of hang-dogged. They're fired men. And parenthetically, I would like to say that the director and writers of this movie appear to find something extraordinarily amusing about ketchup and mustard. It appears in a couple of spots as sources of humor. I didn't get it. The movie keeps on picking up with the lads entering their apartment. Lloyd tells Harry about the woman that he met and how he has her attaché case and how he feels he should take it to her. They ask, Harry asks, have you tried to open the attaché case? And we're given to understand that Lloyd has given it his best, but could not quite manage it. They fear collectors of bills at the door, so they make a back window exit. But it turns out to be the thugs, and they come in and kill the parakeet as a warning, the pet parakeet of Harry's. They actually, the big guy actually tears its head off. When the boys come back, they find their parakeet dead, and one of the peculiar, cruel pieces of humor in this movie takes place in that they scotch tape the head of the bird back onto its body, and they sell it, swindle a blind boy. And this is, of course, we are to take as humor. Basically, it's in the sick joke genre. In this particular episode in the apartment, we have a peculiar episodic episode, and Lloyd is giving out an unconvincing performance of the Lonely Heart Lad and so forth. But Harry buys it, and Harry agrees to take Lloyd to Aspen in his dog van. This is the beginning of the episodic adventures. It might be stated just in passing that in their abode they also have a worm farm. They have some sort of eccentric notion about starting a worm business and franchising it. I can only say that someone in the movie, connected with the movie, must have thought this was humorous. It seems so stupid. It's hardly worth commenting, but the boys set off in their episodes beginning in Pennsylvania, where they stop at a restaurant in which, or diner, in which the boys manage to offend one of the locals, and they go back to the table to sort of placate the four rather hardy-looking rustic types, and it eventually works. But a peculiar thing about this episode is that they manage to come out ahead, and that they play a rather dirty trick on these four gents, passing their bill on to them. Also, you have a situation of stereotyping and reverse stereotyping in this movie. In the reverse stereotyping, you have like the black yuppie woman, that young woman who is met along the way, turn out to be an FBI undercover agent, and another gaggle of cops is led by a black gentleman. On the other hand, the tough white in Pennsylvania turns out to be a homosexual. So you have these stereotypes, reverse stereotypes, and as stated early on, most of the people in this movie are not attractive people. They're nasty, destructive, foolish, and so forth. We have a technique of rock and roll cueing again, and there's a good deal of vulgarity and perversion that's quickly made apparent. We see this right off the reel in the sense that the boys are driving in their dog van, and Lloyd gets the idea that he wants to go to the bathroom, and the idea comes to Harry, well, why not just use a bottle and we won't have to stop? And so this is what happens, and Lloyd fills up an empty bottle of beer and gives it to Harry, who's driving, and soon there's another bottle, and before long Harry has a handful of bottles and trying to steer, and doing an erratic job and speeding in the bargain, and it attracts a motorcycle cop. Now the location I took to be something like Ohio, Indiana. I'm not quite sure of that locale, but at any rate, a country area, and the police officer pulls him over and goes over to the driver's side and sees the beer bottle, open beer bottles and so forth, and demands one of the bottles, and he brings it rather close to his nose, and the boys are kind of cautioning him, and but undaunted, he takes a big pull on it, a swig, and immediately becomes nauseated, and nauseated at the thought of, waving the lads on, and so off they go, and we see the cop bent over, more or less puking on the side of the road. It's hardly credible that anybody would do this, and the whole concept is clearly perverted. But this is characteristic of the humor to be found in this movie. The boys move along, and they run into the thick, big thug who is pretending to have car problems, and he hitches a ride with the boys, and we're treated to one of the funnier aspects of this movie, which is the irritable vocalizations that Jim Carrey is capable of, and just ridiculous singing, I might add, also. And as things happen, they not only picked up this thug, they also picked up a group of Mexican workers of some sort, and they all are in the van singing, and it sounds terrible and ridiculous. Also, at this time, we see a excellent example of the adolescence in this movie. There's a lot of double dare you double dare, did to, did not kind of talk that one associated with children. The boys move on, and soon enough they get into the vicinity of Denver, and then naturally take a wrong turn and start going all the way back into Nebraska. Run out of gasoline, and ready to call the whole game off. And it just so happens that some Denver youth is able to swindle them out of their dog van for a mini bicycle, which they think is an excellent deal, 70 miles to the gallon. And so Harry says, get on the hog. He is cheeky enough to call this mini bike a hog. And off they go, and they do make it to Aspen. The ride to Aspen is filled with bumps and icy conditions and so forth, and we see the lads with frozen schnot mustaches, and we see a situation in which Harry announces that he has to go to the bathroom, and he is on the back of the cycle, and Lloyd tells him, well, just go ahead and go, and so he does, and we hear Lloyd say, oh, it's warm, and then when they finally get to the location and dismount, we see Harry is frozen tight to Lloyd. Now this is a ridiculous scene, it's incongruous, and the whole episode is perverted. And this is the introduction of a kind of soft yellow shower aspect, and the perversions do not stop in this movie. The boys managed to get into a very swank location, because in tossing the attaché case, it springs open, and they see that it's filled with cash. Being scrupulous and righteous, they take cash and give their IOUs. This allows them to buy some very nice clothes, a car, and have a suite in a hotel, and so they're living rather well. And this presents them with an opportunity of impressing the lady love, Mary Swanson. But as things happen, Mary Swanson has been, for some peculiar reason, attracted by the Jeff Daniels character. And so jealousy comes into the play, and the Lloyd character manages to put laxative in a drink for Harry, and the results are predictable, and we have a tremendous bathroom scene. And of course the toilet does not work, or you would expect that in this movie. Some of the jokes here were rather stale. We have the old slapstick kind of deal of the tongue stuck to a frozen piece of metal, and there's some icky kind of stuff. One of the most ludicrous scenes was, again, when they stopped at a restaurant earlier on with a thug, and they gulped down hot peppers and quenched the fire with mustard and ketchup. Again, that singular source of humor. And then they spike the hamburger of the thug with hot peppers, and he keels over. We had learned earlier on that he had something of a tender stomach, and this really does him in. He falls down, and we have one of the more ludicrous scenes. That is, we have Lloyd rushing to administer first aid. He's pounding on this guy's chest, and then this guy is kind of bubbling forth with a repulsive-looking combination of vomit and spittle. And then Jeff Carrey, as Lloyd, is going to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation because the guy appears to be comatose. Well, when he senses the approach of Lloyd, he puts his big paw in the face of Lloyd and tries desperately to keep him away. This inspires a hilarious scene, actually, and we have Harry coming to the rescue with some pills that he had gotten from the thug's coat. Unfortunately, the pills happen to be poison because the thug had meant to do away with Harry and Lloyd by this method. So he is done in by his own pills. Back in Aspen, they have a grand preservation ball, and we get to see the lads appear. One, Harry, is there in what appears to be baby blue tux, top hat, and we see Lloyd appearing in a sherbet orange. Kind of reminiscent of the outfit he wore in The Mask, as a matter of fact. Appeared during a kind of extended cameo. She struck some poses, but was not too effective. Showed her age quite a lot, and basically did nothing which could be called acting. Well, when this whole matter was concluded, and Mary Swanson had her husband returned, and so forth, the boys were on their way back home, and along the way they are kind of hitchhiking. Their little cycle is at a stop, at any rate, and a bus of young, voluptuous, bikini-clad women halt, and they beckon to the boys, and the boys go over and they invite them to come along and to be employed as greasers. It seems that the ladies are in some kind of a contest, maybe modeling bikinis or some such. The boys decline for reasons that are not clear, and after a bunch of sillinesses about where to go and so forth like this, and women looking very forlorn and disappointed at not having these two lads with them, they go on off, and this brings up a kind of interesting aspect about this film. There is a curious ambiguity in the sexuality of these two stars. Although both Lloyd and Harry are depicted as undoubtedly heterosexuals, still there are these very peculiar situations where Jim Carrey, as the Lloyd character, expresses in a kind of a disjointed, frantic, slip-of-the-tongue mode that he would like to sleep with a 12-year-old boy. This may be some kind of homage or gesture to the man-boy love society by the director and writers, but I can't see that this is particularly humorous. Another interesting passage is that a couple walking past the Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey and Aspen produced a comment by Jeff Daniels as he looked back at the shapely young woman, and he made a comment about her rear, and this caused a comment from the Jim Carrey character. Was quite curious because he responded as if the comment had been directed at the male behind of that couple. This was extraordinary, I thought, in that the woman had a very close passing appearance of that of his supposed love interest, Mary Swanson, a shapely woman. So it's quite curious, and one wonders why this was put in other than a stretch for humor. It certainly is not consistency that these people are after. The end of this movie is not satisfactory, and I think the comedy has some good points, but not enough, and I would say save your money.